And special, Jos Buttler has become the first centurion of T20 World Cup 2021. He has scored 101 of just 67 balls against Sri Lanka and England. They have scored how much? 163 for 4 in 20 overs. I mean, this is a brilliant performance.
A complete demolition by Jos Buttler, Abhishek. He provided a perfect guide of how to bat in UAE wickets today. What shot selections, what timing, and the way he curbed his natural instincts when wickets were tumbling at the other end. He just focused on singles, and once he got his timing back and once he was well settled, he just annihilated Sri Lankan attack. He just demolished them. He smoked sixes all across the ground, and to become the first centurion of this T20 World Cup in these conditions, in tough batting conditions, goes to show what a brilliant knock it was from Buttler.
I mean, though he hit 6 sixes and 6 fours, it was not really a slam bang innings, right? I mean, one into Hasaranga, he really choked the England batters. He took 3 wickets for 21 runs, and also Mahis Theeksana, he gave away only 13 runs in his 4 overs. I mean, that was brilliant bowling by Sri Lanka, but it was all down to that one man, I mean, he just took the, breath away from Sri Lanka. I mean, in 163 runs, Jos Buttler scored 101 alone. I mean, that alone says a lot, right?
Scintillating stuff from Buttler. And as you rightly mentioned, Hasaranga and Takshina, they bowled really well. But that was the brilliance of Jos Buttler's innings. He just showed all the respect he needed to Sri Lankan spinners, because the pitch was a dual pace. The ball was keeping a tad bit low, and Sri Lankan spinners did well as they bowled wicket to wicket.
True.
So they didn't give much to Buttler to play with. And he struggled initially. He didn't really struggle, but as the wicket kept tumbling at the other end, he had to curb down his natural instinct. But once he just got going, he just smashed all the Sri Lankan bowlers. Whoever came to bowl, he just kept tonking them over the fence, Abhishek.
I mean, is there a lesson for India here? Because yesterday also, like England today, they lost some early wickets. The bowlers choked them. But what was missing from India's innings yesterday against New Zealand was one solid batter who would have stayed long, stayed for those big sixes and fours, and there was no partnership, right? I mean, today there was a brilliant partnership between Jos Buttler and Eoin Morgan, who scored 40 of 36 balls. Obviously, it was not really, a great big hitting innings, but then it did the job for England, right?
Well, definitely very good that you brought the point of Team India here, because I think England were 47 for 3 in 10 overs, and India was in the similar position against New Zealand yesterday. But what they didn't do yesterday was to have one settled batsman, or 2 even, because Morgan also applied himself and got set, and both of them just registered a 112-run partnership, which was more than how much India scored yesterday. So that goes to show that Indian batters didn't apply themselves.
The intent was missing, right?
The intent was missing once again. And also, it was not just about the playing sixes and boundaries. The 2 batsmen also ran quick between the wickets. So even when the pressure was building, they made sure they kept rotating the strikes. And once they were well settled, the ball just kept flying all across Sharjah.
And how do you describe the Sri Lankan bowlers? I mean, in the last match also against South Africa, they almost took them to a win until David Miller, he hit those sixes and fours in the last over. But throughout today also, 163, obviously by England standards, it's not a high score. Obviously, we have a centurion in Jos Buttler, but then full credit to Sri Lankan also. They didn't wilt under pressure. Just to remind our viewers, they're at the 4th spot in the points table in their group, and they have to win this match to stay alive in the semi-final spot race. And it was a brilliant show, right? For not only the spinners but the pacers also. Though Dushmantha Chameera, he's one of their senior pacers. He went for 43 runs, so that was a cause of worry. Obviously, he came in to bowl in the later overs where Jos Buttler, he just went berserk. But overall, barring that, I think they can be happy with their performance.
Well, I don't really match your opinion in this, Abhishek, because the first 10 overs clearly belonged to Sri Lankan bowlers. But the way they let this game slip away from them, and the way Buttler and Morgan imploded during the death overs, not just in the death overs, but they imploded right after the 10-over marks. Because I remember from Malan's dismissal in the 6th over till the 10th over, they only scored 12 runs in 28 deliveries. And after that, to leak around 117 odd runs in the last 10 overs
Right.
goes to show how poorly Sri Lankan bowlers bowl.
I mean, they had their chance, but they could not translate it into a
Definitely.
really
So
great.
it has to do both. It was a brilliant batting performance by Morgan and Buttler, but also a lack of discipline, you have to say, from Lankan pacers.
And not to forget, England have brilliant bowlers. In fact,
Yeah.
Sri Lanka's chase has already started, and they have already lost 1 wicket. So, I mean, it's a huge match, right? I mean, if they lose such an early wicket, I think it takes the momentum. Obviously, last match we saw only their opener Pathum Nissanka who scored big, and today they have lost one of their openers. So, I mean, it's a huge task now for
Well, it is
Sri
a
Lanka.
mountain to climb for Sri Lanka.
In fact, Pathum Nissanka is the one who has been run out. So it's a big blow, right?
It's a body blow for them because Pathum Nissanka, along with Asalanka, has been the two main batsmen for Sri Lanka because Kushal Perera has also been struggling for runs.
True.
And as you rightly pointed out, 163 is not a big total, but for this Sri Lankan team, it is going to be a mountain to climb, given that England has two quality spinners in Moeen Ali and Rashid Khan, and also their pacers are well apt in bowling in these conditions because we saw how Chris Woakes completely decimated Australia's batting lineup during the last game. So, definitely, England are the front runners to win this game, but once again, cricket is a funny game. You never know what is going to happen.
But today, it's a huge task for the likes of Kusal Perera, Bhanuka Rajapaksa, Charith Asalanka. Obviously, as you mentioned, he has been in great form, but he needs to fire big today if Sri Lanka are to stay alive in this competition. That's it for now. We'll be again back after the end of the innings with the winner's name. Thank you for joining us.